Ready? This is lab number 5 in our series of chemistry labs from household products. I just want to take a moment and review. In our first household product, we took hydrogen peroxide and we took the oxygen out of the hydrogen peroxide with 2 other household products. One was actual beef liver and the other one was Clorox bleach. So we were able to do a chemistry experiment with store-bought hydrogen peroxide, liver, and Clorox bleach. Number 2, we measured the density of carbon dioxide simply by using an covotsos tablet and a scale and a soda bottle. We measured the mass and the volume of the gas coming out. We calculated the density. Then I took in lab number 3, we took a butane lighter, and using the same technique as the Alka-Seltzer, we measured the density of the butane gas that's inside of the lighter here. And then in our 4th lab, all we needed was an ice cube and a styrofoam cup, and we measured the amount of heat that an ice cube absorbs when it is melting, and we call that the heat of fusion. In our 5th lab, we're going to measure how many calories are inside of an almond. And we're going to do that almost the same way, where we are going to have a mass of water that's going to help us determine how many calories. And a calorie is a measure of heat. So we're actually going to heat this nut and we're going to watch it change the temperature of water. So what I did was I just took some aluminum foil and I made an impression of this metal cup so that I could have just an aluminum foil cup. And that aluminum foil cup is going to be placed in here or any holder that you want. So far all I needed was aluminum foil and some nuts. I don't need any chemicals to do this. I need a thermometer and a scale. All right, but what I'm going to do first is take a measured amount of water. And if I take 25 milliliters, I'm going to call that 25 grams. So I'm going to be putting 25 grams right here. I'm going to take my thermometer and I'm going to measure the initial temperature of this water. It's very important that I do that. And it looks like the water's temperature is 25 degrees. I'm going to put 25 degrees here. And that's the starting temperature. And then I'm going to take my 1 almond and I'm going to weigh that because I'm going to figure out how many units per gram. So when I weigh this 1 nut, this unit will be in grams. And I'm waiting for my scale to equalize itself. And I'm getting a mass of 0.89 grams. So that's going to go here. Let me finish this. All right, so right now you need some type of a burner. You can use a candle, you can use a lighter. I am going to take the nut that I just measured and I am physically going to light it. And what I'm doing is I can pass it over a burner or I can pass it over a butane. What it's going to do is it's going to light on its own once I break through the shell and the skin of the nut. And what it's doing is it's actually going to burn, and by burning it's going to be transferring its heat to the water. And you can see the reason why the nut is burning is because the nut is a fuel. And when fuels are lit, they combine with oxygen, and the manner by which this nut burns is directly related to how many calories are inside of it. The greater the temperature change of the water, the more calories are inside of this. And you'll notice that nuts are things that people who are on diets are not supposed to eat. You can see how much energy is coming from this nut. All right, this nut is burning because it's releasing the fat that it has inside of it, and that fat is combusting and actually changing the temperature of this water. It's going to get to a point where the nut's not going to have any more energy. It's going to lose all of its energy. And when it does lose all of its energy, it'll be just a mass of carbon. And we know that carbon is black. And when things burn, like a piece of wood, for example, the final product is carbon. Just look at all the energy that's coming out of this. I only lit it once or twice, but the nut is burning on its own. And what I want to capture is how much did it raise the temperature of this water? And that goes into my temperature column. So right now, you can kind of figure out why, if you're trying to lose weight, don't eat nuts, because just look how much energy is coming out of this nut. And the nut didn't even weigh a gram. It weighed almost just slightly below 1 gram. So can you imagine what 20 or 30 nuts would do, how much energy would come from that, and then how many calories that would add to your diet? So I'm almost ready. And you can see the nut is just about burning out. And you're going to use different foods. You could use walnuts, right? But then you can take a food that's relatively low in calories, like a pretzel. And when you do use different foods, try to make the pretzel almost the same mass as the nut. All right, so this almond is just about ready. You can see it's losing all of its energy. There's a little bit left. So for the sake of the filming, we'll finish it here. I'll take the final temperature, and you can see the thermometer is going way up. Right, and I am getting a temperature. Try not to touch the aluminum, just measure the temperature of the water. And I started at 25, and I'm finishing at 60 degrees. So I'm getting a difference of 60 minus 25 is 45. Right. So this is going to be
35.
35, I'm sorry. 35 and 25 is 60. So I have 35 here, 25 here, and since we're using water, we take water's specific heat capacity of 4.2. I'm going to multiply 25 by 35 by 4.2. I'm going to take that number, I'm going to divide it by the mass of the nut, which was 0.89. Then I'm going to take this whole number and I'm going to divide it by 1,000, because food calories are really kilocalories. There are 1,000 that we should. And when I multiply, take that number, divide, take that whole number here, divide by 1,000, I'm going to come up with how many calories, known as kilocalories, would be per piece of nut. So what you do in this experiment is you change the foods around, and you can take another nut like a peanut or walnut, but take low-calorie foods like pretzels, things like Melba toast, other things that are not high in fat, and try to keep the same pieces, and then you can actually measure the amount of food, the amount of calories that's in any food. And it's a fun experiment, because then you could look at a list of calories, and you can see why doctors encourage people not to eat certain foods, because they're going to add a lot of weight. Junk foods particularly have a lot of weight. So this is experiment 5, and your teacher now will show you how to go through this experiment. All right, man. Thank you.